He hadn't let anyone touch him in 15 years, not since he watched his father die from a poisoned embrace. Then Kaya Mensah, a broke translator who desperately needed this job, crashed into him at his private airstrip, spilled coffee all over his $10,000 suit, and put her hands on his chest. He should have killed her. Instead, he hired her. And that's when everything went wrong. This is the story of how one forbidden touch ignited a war. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button. This is going to be a wild ride. Trust me, you'll want more. And let me know where in the world you're watching from. I'd love to know my friends personally. Now back to the story. Kaya Mensah was running late, and in Medellin, being late to meet a cartel king was a death sentence. Her taxi had broken down on the mountain road leading to the private airstrip. Now she was sprinting in heels across hot concrete, her box braids whipping behind her, sweat glistening on her dark skin under the brutal Colombian sun. The job offer had been clear. Be at the executive terminal at 6:45 a.m. sharp, or lose the opportunity of a lifetime. Personal translator for Esteban Navarro's international operations, 6 figures in US dollars, travel across 3 continents, escape from her suffocating existence, translating for tourists in Cartagena. She rounded the corner of a gleaming private hangar and slammed full force into a wall of muscle and expensive fabric. Her coffee exploded across an immaculate white linen shirt. Her leather portfolio flew open, documents scattering like confetti across the tarmac. And worse, far worse, her hands instinctively grabbed his chest to keep her from falling. Solid, warm, forbidden. Time stopped. Kaya looked up into eyes the color of Colombian coffee, dark, intense, dangerous, sharp jaw covered in precise stubble, dark hair swept back with calculated precision. A face that could have been carved from Andean stone by an angry god. Esteban Navarro, El Rey de Medellin, the man who controlled everything from cocaine routes to politicians, from emerald mines to the bodies buried in the Magdalena River. His entire body went rigid, not angry, but traumatized, like she hadn't just touched him but stabbed him through the heart. Behind him, 6 men in black tactical gear drew weapons in perfect synchronization. Red laser dots painted her forehead, her chest, her trembling hands still pressed against his thundering heartbeat. "No disparen!" someone barked in Spanish. "Don't shoot!" But Kaya was frozen, feeling his pulse hammering beneath the coffee-soaked fabric. For 3 seconds that stretched like 3 lifetimes, neither of them breathed. Then Esteban grabbed her wrists, rough, almost desperate, and physically peeled her hands away like she was made of poison. "Who are you?" His English was perfect, Colombian accent minimal, voice lethal. "Kaya Mensah, I'm here for the translator position. You're late." He dropped her wrists like they burned, took a full step back. "And you just failed." "But I haven't even... You touched me." He said it like she'd committed murder. "No one touches me, ever." "Interview over." He turned toward the waiting Gulf Stream, his men forming an impenetrable wall between them. Kaya stood there, coffee-stained, humiliated, watching her future literally fly away. One of the guards lingered. Older man, scarred face, something almost like pity in his dark eyes. "For what it's worth, señorita," he said quietly, "you're the first person he didn't kill for that." Then he was gone too. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button. This story is about to get wild. Drop A in the comments if you think she deserves a second chance. Inside the jet, Esteban sat rigid in his leather seat, staring at his coffee-stained shirt. His head of security, Ricardo, watched him carefully. "Should I have her detained, investigated?" Ricardo asked. "No." Esteban's jaw clenched. "Just find out everything about her." "Already done, Jefe." Kaya Mensah, 26, Nigerian Ghanaian, raised in Accra, international school education, speaks 7 languages fluently, English, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Twi, and Yoruba. No cartel connections, student loans, sick grandmother in Ghana, clean as snow. Esteban touched his chest where her hands had been. 15 years. 15 years since anyone had dared touch him. And he hadn't killed her. What was wrong with him? 48 hours later, Kaya was stuffing her life back into cardboard boxes when her phone rang. Unknown number with a Colombian country code. "Miss Mensah, Ricardo Vega, head of security for Señor Navarro." Her stomach dropped. If this is about the dry cleaning bill, you're hired. Silence stretched across continents. What? You start Monday. Medellin compound. Be at the gate at 6 a.m. A car will collect you from your hotel Sunday night. Pack for 6 months. Don't be late this time. But he fired me before things changed. Click. What she didn't know. The other 52 translator candidates had been systematically eliminated. 12 failed the advanced language assessment. 8 had connections to rival cartels. 15 were flagged as potential DEA or Interpol plants. 17 couldn't handle the moral flexibility required. Kaya Mensah was the only one who was exactly what she appeared to be: brilliant, desperate, and blessedly unconnected to the underworld that would devour her. Esteban needed her for his expansion into African markets, oil fields in Nigeria, diamond operations in Ghana, shipping routes through the Gulf of Guinea. Without someone who understood both the languages and the cultural nuances, he'd lose $400 million. He hated that he needed her. He hated more that he couldn't stop thinking about how her hands had felt against his chest. Inside his private office overlooking Medellin's sprawling valley, Esteban stood at the window, the coffee-stained shirt hanging in his bedroom closet. He'd ordered his staff not to touch it. Couldn't explain why. "You're making a mistake, Jefe," Ricardo said quietly. "Bringing her here, into this world. I have no choice." "You always have a choice." Esteban's hands clenched into fists. "The Nigerian contracts launch in 3 weeks, the Ghanaian diamond deal in 4. Without her, we lose everything I've built in West Africa." "And with her, what do you lose then?" Esteban didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth terrified him. With Kaya Mensah in his compound, in his space, in his life, he might lose the one thing that had kept him alive for 15 years, his control. The Navarro compound wasn't a house. It was a fortress disguised as a hacienda. 12-foot walls topped with surveillance cameras. Armed guards every 20 feet patrolling manicured gardens. The main building was a blend of colonial Spanish architecture and modern security technology, all whitewashed walls and bulletproof glass. Kaya stepped out of the black SUV, and the October heat hit her like a physical force. The altitude made her slightly dizzy. Ricardo met her at the entrance. "Welcome to Medellin, Miss Mensah. The rules are simple. Never touch Señor Navarro. Never approach without permission. Maintain 3 meters distance at all times. Speak only when translating. Understood?" "Why can't I?" "Those are the rules. Break them, you're gone." His expression softened slightly. "For your own safety, señorita, just follow the rules." "What happens if I break them?" Ricardo's silence was answer enough. Ricardo hesitated, then added quietly, "His birthday celebration is in 3 weeks. The compound will be filled with guests, politicians, cartel families, associates. It's complicated." He met her eyes. "Things have a way of exploding at these parties. Just stay sharp, señorita." Kaya frowned. "What do you mean, exploding?" But Ricardo was already walking away, leaving her with an uneasy feeling she couldn't quite name. Inside, the compound was controlled luxury. Marble floors kept cool despite the heat. Original Botero paintings on the walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the valley where Medellin sprawled like a jewel. And everywhere the subtle presence of armed men who moved like jaguars. Esteban was in his office when she arrived, standing at the window silhouetted against the city. He didn't turn around. "Ricardo will show you to your workspace. You'll translate documents and calls as needed. There's a list of current projects on your desk. Begin with the Lagos oil contracts. I need summaries by tonight." His voice was cold, professional, utterly devoid of recognition. "Yes, sir," Kaya said to his back. "And Miss Mensah?" He still didn't turn. "Stay out of my way." She left, confused and strangely hurt. What she didn't see, the moment the door closed, Esteban's hands clenched into fists against the window frame. He could still feel the phantom pressure of her palms against his chest. Could still smell her scent, shea butter and something sweetly tropical. She was just an employee, a tool, nothing more. So why did his chest ache where her hands had been? The first week was torture measured in 3-meter increments. Esteban communicated only through Ricardo. never looked directly at her, maintained exactly the prescribed distance which Kaya measured with increasing irritation. But strange things kept happening. Monday. Coffee appeared on her desk, Ghanaian instant with condensed milk and a hint of nutmeg, exactly how she took it. The kitchen staff claimed they didn't know who ordered it. Tuesday. She mentioned to a guard that the AC in her office was too cold. Next morning the temperature was perfect, and a soft cashmere cardigan appeared on her chair. Wednesday. She video called her grandmother in Accra during lunch, speaking twee about medication costs. That afternoon, an anonymous wire transfer covered 6 months of treatment. Her grandmother called, crying with relief. Thursday. She worked until midnight on Italian contracts, fell asleep at her desk, woke up covered with a blanket that smelled like sandalwood and coffee and something darkly masculine. Friday night, almost midnight, she was struggling with a French merger document, exhaustion making her clumsy. A voice from the doorway made her jump. Droit de préemption préférentielle et réciproque. Esteban stood there in dark jeans and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms marked with tattoos she couldn't quite make out. Preferential and reciprocal preemptive right. She blinked. You speak French? I speak 7 languages, including Twi, though my pronunciation makes native speakers cry. He crossed to her desk, not close, never close, but closer than he'd been all week. Slid a plate toward her, arepas with cheese, still warm. Eat. You've been here 12 hours. It was the first kind thing he'd said directly to her. Their eyes met across the safe distance, held. For a moment, something flickered in his expression, hunger and fear and desperate loneliness all tangled together. Then it was gone. Walls rebuilt in an instant. 15-minute break, then finish the Marseille contracts. He turned to leave. Thank you, Kaya said softly, for the coffee and my grandmother's medication, and for not being as cold as you pretend to be. He froze mid-step. Didn't turn around. You're mistaken, Miss Mensah. Am I? Because the man who doesn't care wouldn't know I take my coffee with condensed milk, wouldn't know my grandmother needs medication, wouldn't bring me food at midnight. His shoulders tensed. You should be careful making assumptions about me. It could be dangerous. Or maybe, she said, surprising herself with her boldness, you should be careful. Being kind to people might make them think you're human. She saw it, the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, almost a smile. Then he was gone. But when she bit into the arepa, she glanced at the security camera in the corner. In the monitoring room, she somehow knew Esteban Navarro was watching, and maybe, just maybe, almost smiling. In the security room, Esteban stood surrounded by monitors showing every angle of the compound. His eyes were locked on one screen, Kaya, eating the food he'd brought her, a small smile on her face. Ricardo cleared his throat. Jefe, you're doing it again. Doing what? Watching her like she's the only person in the world. Esteban's jaw tightened. I'm ensuring compound security. Is that what we're calling it? Ricardo's tone was careful. Because from here, it looks like you're falling in. Don't! Esteban's voice could have cut glass. Don't finish that sentence. Why did you really hire her back? Silence stretched between them. Finally, Esteban spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Because when she touched me at the airstrip, for 3 seconds, I didn't feel dead inside. And I haven't felt anything but dead for 15 years, Ricardo, not since... He stopped, couldn't say it. Since your father, Ricardo finished quietly. I know, Jefe, I was there that night. Then you understand why I can't... Why she can't... Esteban turned away from the screens. Everyone I've ever cared about has died or betrayed me. My father, my mother, even the woman I thought I'd marry before I learned she was working for the Sinaloa cartel. Kaya isn't them. You don't know that? Actually, I do. I've had her under surveillance since the airstrip. She video calls her grandmother every Tuesday, sends money home religiously, volunteers at a children's literacy program in Cartagena on her days off. The woman is exactly what she appears to be. Good. Pure. Everything this world isn't. Which is exactly why she doesn't belong here, Esteban said. Why I should send her away before this life destroys her. Or maybe, Ricardo said carefully, she's exactly what you need. What this empire needs. A conscience. Esteban looked back at the monitor. Kaya was reading now, unconsciously humming something, probably a Ghanaian song. The sound, even through the speakers, did something strange to his chest. Made it hurt, made it feel. Get out, Ricardo. Jefe. I said get out. After Ricardo left, Esteban stood alone in the dark room, watching Kaya on the monitor until she finally packed up for the night. Only then did he allow himself to whisper the truth. Dios help me, I'm already in too deep. Monday morning brought their first real test. High-stakes meeting today, Ricardo briefed Kaya over breakfast. Calabrian and Drangheta from Italy, 30 million euros on the line. They're traditional, old school, so they'll test you. Ignore everything, just translate. The conference room was all dark wood and leather, testosterone and barely concealed violence. 6 Italians in expensive suits, heavy gold chains, wandering eyes. And Esteban, seated at the head of the mahogany table like a king carved from Colombian emerald. Kaya took her position, standing per protocol, exactly 3 meters from him. The negotiation began. She translated flawlessly, her Italian flowing like the Arno River, keeping 3 parallel conversations balanced. She was brilliant at this, and somewhere beneath his mask she saw Esteban notice. One of the Italians, Russo, thick gold chains and predatory smile, kept staring. She ignored him professionally. Then he reached across the table and grabbed her hand, bringing it slowly to his lips. Bella donna africana, he purred in Italian. Such beauty wasted on translation. Perhaps after business we discuss private lessons, see? Time seemed to slow. Kaya opened her mouth to verbally destroy him in perfect Italian. She didn't get the chance. Esteban moved, not fast, not dramatic. He simply stood, adjusted his cufflinks with terrifying calm, walked around the 12-foot conference table like he had all the time in the world, and broke Russo's wrist with one clean, efficient snap. Crack! The sound echoed like a gunshot. Russo screamed. The room exploded into chaos, guns drawn on both sides, 30 million euros disintegrating in real time. She's not for touching, Esteban said conversationally, in perfect Italian, like discussing the weather in Rome. Then, switching to Spanish for his men, saquen a este cerdo. He'll negotiate via video call, if we allow him to keep breathing. The Italians left, furious, shouting threats, but they left. No one argued with El Rey in his own territory. The room emptied until only Kaya and Esteban remained. She was shaking, from fear, from shock, from something else she didn't want to name. That was... You almost destroyed 30 million... I'd burn 30 million before I let scum like him touch you again. His voice was cold, but his eyes burned. I'm not yours to protect. I'm your employee. I could have handled... Could you? He stepped closer, violating his own 3-meter rule for the first time. You want to know what I saw when his hands touched you? Enlighten me. I saw my father. The words came out raw, unguarded. I saw the woman who killed him. I saw her touching him, embracing him, smiling at him. And then I saw him dying in my arms while 200 people watched and did nothing. Kaya's breath caught. And then I saw 17 different ways to kill Russo, slowly, painfully. I saw myself wrapping my hands around his throat and squeezing until the light left his eyes. While you watched, while you saw what I really am. His voice dropped to something jagged and broken. And that is a problem, Kaya. Why is it a problem? Because I don't do this! His fist slammed into the table and she flinched. I don't feel things. I don't want. I don't need anyone. I buried that part of myself 15 years ago when I held my father's corpse and swore I'd never be that vulnerable again. Then what am I? She stepped closer, closing the distance between them to less than a meter. Drop a comment if you think she's brave or crazy for getting this close to a cartel king. Esteban's control visibly cracked, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. You're the first person I've wanted to touch in 15 years. The confession hung between them like live ammunition, and it terrifies me more than every enemy I've ever faced. Why? She whispered it, and the word felt sacred in the silent room. He turned away, gripping the window frame. When he spoke, his voice was hollow, haunted. I was 17. My father's birthday party here at the compound. 200 guests. Politicians, businessmen, other families. A woman arrived, Camila Restrepo. Beautiful, from an allied family, vetted, approved by my mother. I can still see her face. His knuckles went white. She asked my father to dance. He was a good man, Kaya. Kind. He believed in the old codes, honor, family, loyalty. So he danced with her. Mid-song, she embraced him, leaned close like she was whispering something romantic, smiled at him. Kaya's hand flew to her mouth. Then she drove a needle into his neck, ricin, sent by the Sinaloa cartel. His voice cracked. He collapsed right there on the dance floor, seizing, choking, blood pouring from his nose, his mouth. I ran to him, held him while he died. 3 minutes of pure agony while everyone stood frozen. He tried to speak, to tell me something, maybe who to trust, maybe that he loved me, but only blood came out. Tears streamed down Kaya's face. I learned something that night, Esteban continued, his voice dead now. Touch is a weapon. Affection is how they kill you. Trust is the blade they slip between your ribs. So I built walls. 8 feet, 3 meters, whatever it took. For 15 years, no one has touched me, not a handshake, not an embrace, not even my own mother before she died. He finally turned to look at her, and his eyes were devastated. Until you crashed into me at that airstrip and put your hands on my chest like you had every right to be there. And Kaya, I didn't kill you. Couldn't kill you. Because for 3 seconds your touch didn't feel like a threat. His voice broke completely. It felt like coming home. Silence wrapped around them like prayer. Kaya moved without thinking, crossing the space between them, reaching for him. Don't! He flinched back violently. Please, I can't, I'm not ready. Before she could respond, his phone erupted with calls. Crisis. Sinaloa cartel movement on the northern border. Shootout in Cali. He had to leave. Now. But as he passed her, he stopped. They were inches apart. She could smell his cologne, sandalwood and Colombian coffee. I can't touch you, Kaya, he whispered, and her name in his mouth sounded like prayer and curse combined. But Dios mío, I want to. Then he was gone, and Kaya stood there with tears on her face and her hand pressed to her aching heart, understanding finally, completely what she was up against, not his coldness, his terror. That night, Kaya couldn't sleep. She stood on her balcony overlooking Medellin's lights, replaying everything. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Ricardo stood there, holding a folder. Thought you should see this, he said quietly. El Jefe doesn't know I'm here, and if he finds out, we're both dead. Inside was a dossier, thick, comprehensive, with the Navarro cartel seal. Subject, Isabella Restrepo. Kaya's blood ran cold. Who is she? Esteban's arranged fiancé. His mother set it up before she died. Old families, political alliance, merger of territories. The announcement is scheduled for this Saturday, his birthday party. He's engaged? The words came out strangled. Little did Kaya know, in 3 days she would do something so reckless, so catastrophically bold, that it would change everything. She would walk into that birthday party, drunk on champagne and desperation, and kiss Colombia's most untouchable man in front of 500 witnesses. But right now, she could only stare at Isabella Restrepo's photo and feel her world crumbling. On paper. But 3 days ago, our intelligence uncovered something. Ricardo flipped to a page marked in red. Isabella Restrepo is Sinaloa, deep cover operative, sent to finish what Camila started 15 years ago. Kaya's hands shook as she read the evidence. Bank transfers, secret meetings, communications with known Sinaloa lieutenants. She's going to kill him at the party, Ricardo said flatly. Same method. Needle during an embrace, during the engagement announcement probably. Public, humiliating, exactly like his father. Does he know? He figured it out 3 days ago, but he can't just break the engagement without proof he can present to the other families. It would dishonor his mother's memory, start a war we're not ready for, make him look weak. Ricardo's expression was grim. So he's gathering more evidence, plans to expose her Saturday morning, before the announcement, quietly, diplomatically. And if something happens before then he dies. And the Navarro Empire collapses, and the Sinaloa cartel takes over all of Colombia. Ricardo met her eyes. He's been preparing for his own death for 15 years, Miss Mensah. Accepted it as inevitable. But you, what about me? You made him want to live again. I've known Esteban since he was a boy. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like you're oxygen. Like you're the sun. Ricardo closed the folder. So I'm telling you this because you deserve to know. And because if something happens to him, someone needs to know the truth. After he left, Kaya sat with the folder, hands trembling. Esteban was marrying a woman who would kill him, trapped by honor and politics and the ghost of his dead mother's wishes. And he was doing it alone, like he did everything, keeping everyone at 3 meters, even as he drowned. She made a decision then, reckless, stupid, possibly suicidal, but she'd already fallen for a man who couldn't touch her, who brought her coffee at midnight and watched her on security cameras, who broke a man's wrist for touching her hand. If he was going to die, he wouldn't die alone, and he definitely wouldn't die at all, not if she had anything to say about it. The next 3 days were torture. Tuesday. Isabella Restrepo arrived at the compound. Tall, elegant, ice-blonde hair, designer, everything. She touched Esteban's arm possessively in the hallway. Kaya watched from her office, nausea churning in her stomach. He didn't pull away from Isabella, because she was allowed to touch him, part of the arrangement. "Ah, the translator," Isabella said in Spanish, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "How useful." "Miss Mensah is essential to our African operations," Esteban said, his voice carefully neutral. "I'm sure she is." Isabella's smile was razor-sharp. "Well, I hope you'll attend our engagement party Saturday, Miss Mensah. It's so important for staff to feel included in family celebrations." Kaya forced herself to smile. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." Wednesday. The compound buzzed with party preparations, florists, caterers, security sweeps. Kaya translated business calls while watching crews transform the courtyard into something from a fairy tale that would end in murder if she didn't stop it. Thursday. Esteban stopped coming to her office entirely, communicated only through Ricardo. The 3-meter rule extended to 3 rooms, 3 floors, 3 lifetimes of distance. In the security room, he watched her on monitors, his fist pressed against his mouth. "Just tell her," Ricardo urged. "Tell her about Isabella. Tell her why you can't—" "She leaves next week," Esteban said flatly, "after the party. I'm sending her back to Ghana with a year's salary and a recommendation that will get her any job she wants. She deserves better than this world, better than me." "You're a coward." "I'm realistic. Everyone I love dies, Ricardo. My father, my mother, even you will probably die for me someday. I won't add her to that list. What if she doesn't want to be saved? What if she wants to choose for herself?" Esteban's laugh was bitter. "Then she's more foolish than I thought." But that night, he stood outside her door for 20 minutes, hand raised to knock before finally walking away. In her room, Kaya heard his footsteps, held her breath, waited. The knock never came. Friday arrived like a countdown to execution. Kaya found Esteban in his office at dawn, staring at documents. "I need to tell you something. If this is about your salary—" "I know about Isabella." He froze, slowly looked up. "What did you say?" "I know she's Sinaloa. I know she's here to kill you. I know you're trapped by honor and your mother's memory." Kaya stepped closer. "And I know you're planning to die rather than dishonor anyone. Very noble, very stupid, very you." "Who told you?" "Does it matter? What matters is you're walking into a trap tomorrow and pretending everything is fine." "I have it under control." "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you look like a man who's given up." Esteban stood slowly, his expression dangerous. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't I? I've watched you for 2 weeks, Esteban. Watched you bring me coffee at midnight. Watched you break a man's wrist for touching me. Watched you stare at security monitors like I'm the only thing keeping you tethered to earth." She crossed the 3-meter line. You're not dead inside, you're just scared. And honestly, so am I. You should be scared. This world will destroy you. Then let it. She moved closer. But I'm not leaving. I'm not going back to Ghana. I'm staying right here, and tomorrow night I'm going to that party, and I'm going to watch you announce your engagement to a woman who wants you dead. And maybe, just maybe, I'll do something really, really stupid. Like what? I haven't decided yet, but when I do, you'll know. She turned to leave. His voice stopped her. Kaya. She looked back. For one moment, his mask slipped completely, and what she saw underneath took her breath away. Longing, fear, love. Don't do anything stupid, he whispered. Please, I can't. If something happened to you because of me, then don't let me face it alone. Silence stretched between them. Then his phone rang and the moment shattered. But as she left, Kaya heard him whisper 2 words in Spanish. Lo siento. I'm sorry. Saturday night arrived like a gorgeous executioner. The Navarro compound transformed into something from a drug lord's fever dream. 500 guests, ministers, cartel leaders, oligarchs, socialites, a full mariachi band, champagne fountains that probably cost more than Kaya's education, ice sculptures of swans, roses imported from Ecuador, everything white and gold and obscenely beautiful. Kaya wore a simple black dress, elegant but designed to blend into the background. It didn't work. Men noticed her anyway. She ignored them all. Her friend Lucia, one of the housekeepers, found her hiding near the kitchen. Amiga, you look like you're planning murder. I'm planning something. Does it involve the boss? Unfortunately. Lucia grinned. Finally. I was beginning to think you were all talk and no fire. He's about to announce his engagement to a woman who's going to kill him, Lucia. What am I supposed to do? Stop it, obviously. Lucia pressed a glass of champagne into her hands. Here, liquid courage. You're going to need it. Kaya downed it, then another, then a third. The world softened at the edges. The pain in her chest dulled to a manageable ache. And when she looked down at the courtyard and saw Esteban standing beside Isabella, looking like he was attending his own funeral, she made a decision. She descended the stone steps into the courtyard, each step deliberate. The crowd parted instinctively, something in her expression maybe. The African woman in the simple black dress, walking with purpose toward El Rey himself. Whispers followed her like wildfire. Who is she? The translator. Is she insane? Dios mío, she's actually... Esteban saw her coming. His eyes widened fractionally, the most emotion she'd seen on his face all night. His lips formed one word. No. She didn't stop. She didn't slow. She walked right up to him, grabbed his face with both hands, feeling the sharp stubble under her palms, the heat of his skin, the sharp intake of his breath, and kissed him, not soft, not tentative, not apologetic, a claiming, a confession, a declaration of war against everything trying to kill them. The mariachi band stopped mid-note. 500 people froze. The world held its breath. For one heartbeat, Esteban was rigid with shock, hands hovering uselessly at his sides. Then he broke. His hand slammed into her waist, yanking her against him hard enough to bruise. He kissed her back like a drowning man finding oxygen, desperate, starving, 15 years of starvation crammed into one devastating kiss. His fingers tangled in her braids, her hands fisted in his jacket. They kissed like they were the only 2 people in Colombia. They weren't. The courtyard erupted into chaos. Isabella's scream cut through the night. The matriarch who'd arranged the engagement gasped, clutching her pearls. Guards reached for weapons, unsure what threat this even was. Guests pulled out phones, already recording, already tweeting, but neither Esteban nor Kaya cared. When they finally broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed together, Esteban's eyes were wild, unguarded, alive. You just, in front of everyone. Dios mío, Kaya. I know. She was shaking, adrenaline and champagne, and finally touching him, making her dizzy. I know, but I couldn't watch you die. Matenla, Isabella's father roared, red-faced with rage. Kill her for this insult. Several men in suits reached for weapons. Esteban's arm banded around Kaya's waist like iron, pulling her behind him. When he spoke, his voice could freeze the Colombian sun. Anyone who touches her dies screaming. Pause. Let that sink in. That's not a threat, it's a promise. The courtyard went dead silent. She's mine. Isabella lunged forward, diamonds glittering like weapons, face twisted with rage. You humiliate me? In front of everyone? For this African puta? Finish that sentence, Esteban said softly, and I'll finish you. Right here, right now. I know your secrets, Esteban, Isabella hissed, switching to rapid Spanish. I know about the Mexican pipeline, the Venezuelan deals, and I know about your meetings with the Sinaloa cartel. His voice cut like a machete through jungle. I know what you are, what you were sent here to do. Gasps rippled through the crowd like earthquake aftershocks. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? He pulled a phone from his pocket, swiped, held it up. I have photos, bank transfers, recordings of your calls to Culiacan. I've had evidence for 3 days. Isabella's face went white, then calculating. Her hand moved toward her clutch. Ricardo was faster, gun to her temple. I wouldn't, señorita. Guards surrounded Isabella and her father's men. The Restrepo contingent found themselves outnumbered, outgunned, and completely outplayed. You plan to kill me tonight, Esteban continued, his voice terrifyingly calm. Same method used on my father. Needle in an embrace during our engagement announcement. Ricin, probably. Painless at first, then agony. Very Sinaloa. He stepped closer to Isabella and she actually flinched. But here's what you didn't know. I've been building a case against the Sinaloa cartel for months. Names, routes, contacts, everything I need to bring them down. And you, querida, just became my star witness. I'll never testify. You will, because the alternative is I hand you over to the families you betrayed, and they're much less forgiving than federal prison. Isabella's father tried to draw a weapon. Ricardo's men were faster. Within seconds, the entire Restrepo contingent was disarmed, on their knees, surrounded. You have 2 choices, Esteban said. Cooperate with the authorities and live in witness protection, or disappear tonight and hope the Sinaloa bosses are merciful when they learn you failed. Again. His smile was sharp as broken glass. I'm told they're not fond of failure. Isabella's father spat at Esteban's feet. This isn't over. Actually, Esteban said, it is. Ricardo, call our friends at the DEA. Tell them we have a gift. As guards escorted the Restrepo family away, the crowd remained frozen. The matriarch who'd arranged the engagement looked like she might faint. Esteban turned to her, his arm still around Kaya. Senora Martinez, I apologize for the disruption. My mother trusted your judgment, and I honored that trust as long as I could. But Isabella Restrepo is a Sinaloa operative sent to murder me. I have the proof. The engagement is terminated. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me, tomorrow, after I've slept, and after I've spent tonight with the woman who just saved my life. He looked down at Kaya, and his expression softened. The woman I should have chosen from the beginning. The crowd erupted, some in shock, some in approval, some already gossiping, but Esteban didn't seem to care. He kept his arm around Kaya as he led her through the crowd, ignoring questions, ignoring the chaos, ignoring everything except her. They didn't stop until they reached his private wing. He locked the door behind them, and suddenly they were alone. Kaya collapsed on his leather sofa, adrenaline crash hitting like a freight train. I kissed you, in front of everyone. I ruined your engagement party. I exposed your enemy. I probably started a war. You saved my life. Esteban poured 2 glasses of aguardiente, Colombian firewater, handed her one, sat beside her, close, finally close enough to touch. You magnificent, reckless, perfect woman. You're not angry? Angry? He laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. Kaya, Isabella was going to kill me in approximately 30 minutes. Had the needle ready. Had it all planned. Your kiss forced her hand before she was ready, made her panic, made her show herself publicly. He cupped her face with hands that trembled slightly. You saved my life by kissing me in front of every power player in Colombia. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or completely insane. Both, she whispered. Definitely both. I was going to handle it quietly, expose her in the morning, end the engagement diplomatically, then tell you everything, ask you to stay. His thumb brushed her lower lip. But you didn't wait. You just crashed through every wall I've built and kissed me like you were claiming territory. I was claiming territory. His smile was dark, possessive. Everything she'd dreamed about in secret. 3 days passed. The compound was on lockdown. Isabella and her father's men arrested. Sinaloa threats monitored. Security tripled. But inside Esteban's private wing, something quieter was happening. Kaya sat in his office, translating contracts while he worked across the room. The distance between them felt different now. Charged, deliberate. "Coffee?" she asked, standing. I've got it." She poured 2 cups, walked to his desk, and handed him one. Their fingers brushed. Both froze. It was nothing, just a handoff. But they'd never done this before, touched casually without crisis or danger forcing them together. Esteban stared at their hands, at the point where her brown fingers touched his olive-toned ones. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "Do what?" "Touch you, without," he swallowed hard, "without my body thinking it's a threat, without freezing up, without—" Kaya set the cup down, slowly. Giving him time to pull away, she reached for his hand, palm to palm, fingers interlacing. His breathing went ragged, but he didn't pull back. "You're doing it right now," she said softly. "See, no needles, no poison, just me." He stared at their joined hands like they were a miracle. 15 years, Kaya. 15 years of not— "I know," she squeezed gently. "We'll take it slow, one touch at a time." They stood there for 5 minutes, just holding hands, learning what it felt like without adrenaline, without an audience, without the world ending around them. When they finally let go, Esteban's eyes were wet. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For being patient with a broken man." "You're not broken," she said fiercely. "You're healing. There's a difference." "Good. Because now I'm going to claim you back." "What does that mean?" "It means you're mine now, Kaya Mensah. Officially, publicly, irrevocably." He stood, pulled her to her feet, and dropped to one knee. Her breath stopped. From his pocket he produced a velvet box, antique, beautiful, opened to reveal a ring that made her gasp. Emeralds and diamonds, Colombian stones set in gold. "This was my grandmother's, then my mother's. It's been waiting for the woman who would bring the Navarro heir back to life." He took her hand, and his touch sent electricity through every nerve. "Marry me. Not because I need a translator or a business partner. Because I need you. Because you touched me when no one else dared. Because your name means stay, and that's all I want you to do. Stay with me forever." Tears streamed down Kaya's face. "That's insane. I barely know you. You know I take my coffee black with too much sugar, that I speak 7 languages badly, that I broke a man's wrist for touching you, that I haven't smiled in 15 years until you made me." He stood, still holding her hand. "And I know you take your coffee with condensed milk and nutmeg, that you call your grandmother every Tuesday, that you're brilliant and brave and the only person who's ever made me want to live instead of just survive. The Sinaloa cartel will come after us. Let them. I've been preparing for war since I was 17. The difference now is I finally have something worth fighting for. Your world is dangerous. I know. But I'll burn it all down before I let it touch you. Guards on you 24/7, the best security money can buy. And if anyone even looks at you wrong," his expression went cold. "Well, you saw what I did to Russo." "That's not healthy." "No, but it's honest." He pulled her closer. "I'm not a good man, Kaya. I've killed people. I've done things that would make you run screaming. I'm probably going to hell. But with you, for the first time in 15 years, I want to try to be better. Want to build something beyond violence and death. Want to—" She kissed him, cutting off his words. This kiss was different, slower, deeper, a promise being sealed. When they broke apart, she whispered against his lips. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you. Yes to all of it. The danger, the insanity, the impossible love story, all of it." He slid the ring onto her finger. perfect fit, like it had been waiting for her all along. Then he lifted her, carried her to his bedroom, and for the first time in 15 years, Esteban Navarro let someone hold him through the night. Comment below if you're crying right now, because this story isn't over yet. The next morning, Kaya woke wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets and Esteban's arms. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Medellin's valley. He was already awake, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You watch people sleep? That's not creepy at all," she mumbled. "Only you, only ever you." He brushed braids from her face. "I kept thinking I'd wake up and this would all be a dream, that you'd be gone, that last night didn't happen." "It happened." She held up her hand, the ring catching morning light. "See? Evidence." His smile was soft, vulnerable, nothing like the cartel king the world feared. "I need to tell you something. Before we go any further, before you're too deep to escape." "I'm already too deep, Esteban. You don't know everything, about what I've done, who I am." She sat up, sheet wrapped around her. "Then tell me." So he did. He told her about his first kill at 18, a Sinaloa lieutenant who tortured one of his men, about the villages his cartel controlled, the bribes to officials, the shipments of cocaine moving through his ports, about the people who'd betrayed him and disappeared, about the blood on his hands that would never wash clean. He told her everything, waiting for her to recoil, to run, to see him for the monster he believed himself to be. Instead, she took his hand. "I'm not naive, Esteban. I knew who you were before I came here, before I kissed you, before I fell in love with you." "How can you love someone like me?" "Because you're not just the violence. You're also the man who brings me coffee at midnight, who paid for my grandmother's medication, who hasn't smiled in 15 years because you're still mourning your father, who breaks people's wrists when they disrespect women, who's trying, really trying to build something better." She cupped his face. "You're not a good man by conventional standards, but you're my man, and I choose you, all of you, the darkness and the light." He kissed her then, and it tasted like absolution. 3 days later, chaos arrived in the form of consequences. "The Sinaloa cartel has officially declared war," Ricardo reported, tablet showing intelligence feeds. "3 of our shipments hit, warehouse in Barranquilla burned, and—" He hesitated. "Say it," Esteban ordered. "There's a contract out, $5 million, on Kaya." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Kaya, sitting beside Esteban in his office, went very still. "How many takers?" 18 crews that we know of, more emerging daily. Every sicario from here to Mexico City wants that payday." Esteban's hands clenched into fists. "Triple our security. I want men on her 24/7. She doesn't leave the compound without—" "No," Kaya stood. "I'm not hiding. You absolutely are—" "No, Esteban." Her voice was firm. "You've spent 15 years building walls. Don't build one around me now. They want to kill you to hurt me. Then teach me to defend myself. Train me. Arm me. Make me a harder target." She met his eyes. "I grew up in Accra. You think I don't know how to handle myself? My mother made sure I learned Krav Maga. My father taught me to shoot. I'm not helpless. I'm just inexperienced in your world." Something shifted in his expression, respect, pride. "You want to learn? I want to survive. And I want to stand beside you, not behind you." Ricardo cleared his throat. "I'll call the instructor." Over the next week, Kaya trained like her life depended on it. Because it did. Hand-to-hand combat with Ricardo's best men, weapons training at the compound's private range, strategy sessions on cartel operations and threat assessment. She absorbed everything like a sponge. "She's a natural," the combat instructor reported. "Fast learner, good instincts. Give her 2 months and she'll be formidable." "We don't have 2 months," Esteban said grimly. The intelligence had been specific. The Sinaloa cartel was planning something big, soon. Thursday afternoon it came. "Jefe, we have a problem." Ricardo burst into the office. "The Sinaloa are moving, not on us, on her family." Kaya's blood ran cold. "What?" "Your grandmother. They've sent men to Accra. Plan to take her hostage. Use her as leverage to draw you out. We need to—" "Already done," Esteban said, phone to his ear, rattling off orders in Spanish. I'm sending a team. Your grandmother will be on a plane to Medellin within the hour. Private jet, full security detail. You can't just kidnap my grandmother. I'm not kidnapping her. I'm saving her life. And yours. He looked at her, and his expression was steel. They come after you. That's war. They come after your family? That's genocide. I will burn the Sinaloa cartel to the ground. 6 hours later, Kaya's grandmother arrived at the compound, a tiny, fierce woman who took one look at the armed guards, the fortress, and her granddaughter in a designer dress, and said in Twi, "Child, what have you gotten yourself into?" "It's complicated, Nana. Is he the one?" Her grandmother looked at Esteban, who stood respectfully to the side. "Yes." "Does he treat you well?" "Better than I deserve." Her grandmother studied Esteban for a long moment. Then, in perfect English, "You're the drug lord?" "Yes, ma'am." "And people want to kill my granddaughter because of you?" "Yes, ma'am." "What are you doing about it?" "Everything in my power, and several things beyond my power." He stepped forward. "Señora Mensah, I know this isn't the life Kaya planned. I know I'm not the man you imagined for her, but I love your granddaughter more than my own life, and I will protect her with everything I have, even if it means dying to keep her safe." Kaya's grandmother looked between them. Then she sighed. "Well, at least he's honest, and handsome, and rich." She patted Esteban's cheek. "But if you get my granddaughter killed, I will haunt you from the afterlife, understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Now someone show me to my room, and I want jollof rice for dinner. None of this Colombian food. I need proper West African cooking." As staff led her grandmother away, Kaya laughed for the first time in days. She just threatened a cartel king. "I like her," Esteban said, grinning. "She reminds me of my own grandmother. Terrifying." But the moment of levity was brief. That night, the first assassination attempt came. Kaya was in her office, translating contracts, when the window exploded inward, glass everywhere. A black-clad figure swinging through on a rope. Training kicked in. Kaya dove behind her desk, grabbed the handgun Esteban had insisted she keep there, and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The assassin dropped, alarms blared, guards flooded in, and Esteban burst through the door, gun drawn, looking absolutely feral. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine, he's not." Kaya pointed to the body. Esteban stared at her, at the gun in her steady hands, at the dead assassin, at her calm expression, and something in his eyes blazed hot. "You shot him." 3 times, center mass, just like you taught me." He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her hard. "You're perfect. Absolutely perfect. He's dead because of me. He's dead because he tried to kill you. There's a difference." Esteban pulled back, checking her for injuries. "But this changes things. They got inside the compound. That means we have a leak." The next 48 hours were brutal. Esteban's men interrogated everyone, checked every system, traced every communication. They found the traitor, a guard who'd been bribed, then killed to cover tracks. "It's going to get worse before it gets better," Ricardo warned. He was right. Friday night, Kaya was in the bathroom when she heard shouting. Gunfire. She grabbed her weapon, crept to the door, and found Esteban in the hallway, surrounded by bodies. Blood on his shirt, a cut on his face, but alive. "Stay in the room," he ordered. "Not a chance." She raised her gun. Boom. "I've got your back." They moved through the compound together, a lethal unit. 4 more assassins. A coordinated hit. But Esteban's men were better trained, better prepared. When it was over, Esteban stood in the courtyard, bodies at his feet, and made a phone call. "This is Navarro," he said in Spanish. "You hit my compound. You threatened my family. You put a price on the woman I love." His voice went cold. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm coming for you, not your soldiers. You, the bosses in Culiacan. I know where you sleep. I know where your children go to school. I know everything." Pause. "You have 48 hours to cancel the contract and leave me alone, or I start a war that ends with your entire organization buried in the desert." He hung up, turned to Kaya. "We're leaving Medellin. Too exposed here." "Where?" "My ranch in the Llanos, 3 hours away, remote, defensible. We go tonight." By dawn, they were in the Colombian plains, endless grasslands stretching to the horizon. The ranch was a fortress disguised as paradise. Rivers and horses and men with rifles patrolling the perimeter. Kaya's grandmother adapted surprisingly well. At least there's space to breathe here, and the food is better. For 3 days they lived in tense peace, waiting, training, preparing. Then the call came. Jefe, the Sinaloa bosses want to meet. Neutral territory. Negotiation to end the war. Esteban's expression was skeptical. It's a trap. Probably, Ricardo agreed. But if you don't go, they'll see it as weakness. The war escalates. I'll go, Kaya said. Everyone turned. I'm the reason for this war. Let me help end it. Absolutely not. Esteban, listen to me. They want to see me scared. Want to see you protecting a helpless woman. What if we flip it? What if I walk in there beside you, armed, trained, calm? What if I look them in the eye and dare them to collect their bounty? It was insane. Dangerous, possibly suicidal. Ricardo grinned. I like it. You're both insane, Esteban muttered, but she could see him considering it. Where's the meeting? Bogota, the Continental Hotel, tomorrow night. Kaya met Esteban's eyes. Let's end this. Together. He pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. If anything happens to you, then you'll burn Colombia to the ground. I know. She smiled. But nothing's going to happen. Because we're smarter, stronger, and more desperate than they are. And you're wearing a vest, and carrying 2 guns, and staying within arm's reach of me at all times. Deal. The Continental Hotel in Bogota was neutral territory, a place where cartel business was conducted under ancient rules. No killing on the premises. Violations meant death by the council. Kaya wore a red dress and her grandmother's ring, emeralds and diamonds catching the light. Under the dress, a Kevlar vest. In her clutch, 2 loaded Glocks. She walked into the meeting room beside Esteban, head high, every inch a queen. The Sinaloa bosses, 3 men in expensive suits, eyes cold as reptiles, sat at the conference table. Navarro, the eldest said, you brought your puta to a business meeting? I brought my fiancée, Esteban corrected, his voice lethal. The woman you were stupid enough to threaten. The woman who's killed 3 of your sicarios personally. They looked at Kaya with new interest, reassessment. She smiled. No fear, no submission. Gentlemen, let's discuss why you're going to cancel the contract and leave my family alone. And why would we do that? Because I have something you want. She pulled out a flash drive. Every DEA agent on your payroll, every politician in your pocket, every dirty cop from here to Juarez, names, dates, payments, everything. Silence. Esteban has been gathering this information for years, but he never used it. Professional courtesy. Live and let live. She leaned forward. But you made it personal, so here's the deal. Cancel the contract. End the war. Leave us alone, and this drive disappears. Forever. Or it goes to the DEA, Interpol, and the Mexican government simultaneously. Your entire organization collapses by morning. The eldest boss studied her for a long moment, then laughed. You have fire, this one. I see why you love her, Navarro. So? Esteban's hand was on his weapon. Do we have a deal? More silence. Then. The contract is canceled. The war ends tonight. You have our word. Your word means nothing, Kaya said calmly. But I'll take it anyway. Because if you break it, Esteban won't just destroy your organization. He'll make sure every cartel in Latin America knows the Sinaloa bosses can't be trusted. You'll be pariahs, targets, dead within a year. She stood. So keep your word, or don't. But know that I'm not afraid of you, and neither is he. We're stronger together than you'll ever be. They left, walked out of the Continental, got into their armored SUV. Only then did Kaya's hands start shaking. That was insane, Esteban finished. Brilliant. Terrifying. Everything I love about you. He pulled her into his arms. Did you really have all that information? Yes. Ricardo gave it to me 3 days ago. And if they'd called your bluff? Then we'd have started a much bigger war, but they didn't. She kissed him. Because bullies always back down when you stand up to them. You're going to be a terrifying cartel queen. Good. Someone has to keep you in line. That night, back in Medellin, Kaya stood on the balcony of their shared bedroom, yes, shared now, watching the city lights. Esteban came up behind her, close, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Can I?" His voice was uncertain in a way she'd never heard before. "Can I hold you?" Not because someone's shooting at us, or because we're making a point, just because I want to. She turned to face him. "You never have to ask, Esteban." "I do, though. I need to. Need to know it's okay, that you want." She stepped into his arms, cutting off his words, wrapped her arms around his waist, pressed her cheek to his chest. For a moment he was rigid, old instincts, old trauma. Then, slowly, his arms came around her, tentative at first, then tighter, then crushing her against him like he'd die if he let go. "I've got you," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not a weapon. I'm just yours." His hands moved, one cradling the back of her head, fingers tangling in her braids, the other spanning her back, holding her close. They stood there for a long time, not kissing, not talking. Just holding each other under the Colombian stars, learning what peace felt like. When Esteban finally spoke, his voice was wrecked. "I want to marry you so bad, not for strategy, not for alliances, just because I love you and I want everyone to know you're mine. I can't wait to be your queen, Esteban. I can't wait to have all of you, everything." He cut her off with a kiss, slow and deep and full of promise. And when they made love that night, it wasn't desperate or dangerous. It was tender, real, the beginning of everything. The wedding planning happened fast but felt right. Kaya's grandmother flew in from Accra, crying the moment she saw the compound. "My baby is marrying a king," she kept saying. "A cartel king, Grandma." "Still a king," she cupped Kaya's face. "And he looks at you like you hung the moon. That's all that matters." Kaya chose her dress with Lucia, the maid who'd become her friend, her ally. White, but with kente cloth accents in gold and green, honoring her heritage. Esteban commissioned a custom ring, emeralds from his mines, diamonds from contacts in Ghana set in Ghanaian gold, a fusion of their worlds. The night before the wedding, Ricardo found Esteban in his office. "Cold feet, Jefe?" "Terrified feet," Esteban admitted. "What if I'm not good enough for her? What if this life destroys her?" "Then you make sure it doesn't. You build the schools, fund the programs, use your power for something besides fear." Ricardo smiled. "She's already changed you, Esteban. I've watched you become more human in 3 months than you were in 15 years. I don't deserve her. Probably not, but she chose you anyway. So don't waste it." 2 weeks later, the compound was filled with flowers, white roses and orchids imported from Ecuador, an arch overlooking Medellin's valley, a priest who asked no questions. Kaya wore white, a gown that honored both her African heritage and Colombian tradition. Her grandmother cried. Ricardo served as best man, looking uncomfortable in a suit. And Esteban, standing at the altar in black, looked at Kaya like she was the sun. "I, Esteban Navarro, take you, Kaya Mensah," he said, voice thick with emotion, "to be my wife, my partner, my conscience, the woman who taught me how to live again. I promise to protect you, honor you, and love you until my last breath, and probably beyond." Kaya's vows were simpler. "I, Kaya Mensah, take you, Esteban Navarro, to be my husband. You're not a good man, but you're my man. And I choose you, every day, forever." They kissed as husband and wife, and 500 guests, cartel leaders, politicians, business associates, erupted in applause. In the back, Isabella Restrepo watched from federal custody, her face twisted with rage. But she was powerless now, testifying against her Sinaloa handlers in exchange for life in prison instead of death. The party lasted until dawn, dancing, champagne, joy that felt almost impossible in a world of violence. At midnight, Esteban pulled Kaya aside. "I have something for you." He led her to his office, where documents waited on his desk. "What are these?" "Contracts for schools in Accra and Lagos, libraries in Medellin, a literacy program in Cartagena, all funded by the Navarro Foundation." She looked up, eyes wide. "You're building schools?" "We're building schools." "You made me want to be better, Kaya. want to build something beyond violence. So this is us, our legacy, using this blood money to create something good. She kissed him, tears streaming down her face. I love you. I love you more. Even if you did drunkenly kiss me in front of 500 people. Best decision I ever made. Second best, he corrected. Best was saying yes when I proposed. They made love that night again in their bedroom overlooking the city. Slow, tender, a ceiling of vows and promises. And later, wrapped in sheets and each other, Esteban whispered against her hair, "Thank you." Again? For what? For crashing into me at that airstrip. For putting your hands on my chest. For kissing me when I needed it most. For teaching me that touch isn't always a weapon. He pressed his lips to her forehead. For bringing me back to life. Kaya smiled in the darkness. Your name means crown, you know, in Greek. I didn't know that. Mine means stay in Swahili, so I guess we were always meant to be together. The crown that needed someone to stay. 6 months later, Kaya stood in the new library in Cartagena, a beautiful building with her grandmother's name on the cornerstone. Children filled the reading rooms, laughing, learning. Esteban stood beside her, his hand on her still flat stomach. Are you sure? He asked for the 10th time. The doctor confirmed it this morning. We're having a baby. His expression transformed, fear and joy and wonder all mixed together. I don't know how to be a father. My own was murdered when I was 17. Then we'll figure it out together, like everything else. She took his hand. And our child will grow up knowing that love is stronger than violence, that walls can come down, that even cartel kings can change. He pulled her close and they stood there watching children read. Children who would grow up because of schools they built, programs they funded, hope they created. The Navarro Empire still existed, still dealt in things that would make most people recoil. But slowly, gradually, it was transforming. Schools, hospitals, programs for former sicarios to learn trades, blood money being washed clean through generation after generation of good works. Not redemption, not exactly, but a start. That night, lying in bed, Kaya felt Esteban's hand on her stomach. What are you thinking? She asked. That 3 years ago, I was dead inside, going through motions, building an empire on nothing but revenge and emptiness. And then you crashed into me. Literally. He kissed her shoulder. And now I have everything. A wife, a child coming, a reason to build instead of just destroy. Do you miss it? The coldness? The walls? Sometimes. It was safer, simpler. He pulled her closer. But I wouldn't trade this, us, for anything, even the fear, even the vulnerability, because you were right that night you kissed me. About what? I'm not dead inside. I was just scared. He pressed his forehead to hers. And honestly, I still am. Terrified something will happen to you, to our baby, that I'll lose you the way I lost everyone else. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise this. Whatever time we have, we spend it alive, really alive, not just surviving, loving, building, but creating something beautiful from all this darkness. He kissed her then, slow, deep, full of promise and prayer. Outside, Medellin sparkled like scattered diamonds. Somewhere in the city, deals were being made, violence planned, the cartel world turning as it always did. But in the Navarro compound, in a bedroom that had been empty for 15 years, a cartel king held his wife and dreamed of their child. Dreamed of schools and libraries and a future built on hope instead of fear. And for the first time since he was 17, Esteban Navarro wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Because he had something worth living for. Someone who'd kissed him when he needed it most. Someone whose name meant stay. And stayed she had, forever. If this story made you feel something, don't forget to hit subscribe. I've got more impossible love stories coming. Drop A if you want to see more cartel romance. And comment below, Would you kiss a dangerous man to save his life? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the coldest hearts just need the right person to melt them.